The content in this podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing we say should be taken as individualized advice. If anything you hear brings up concerns for you, we strongly encourage you to speak with your GP, psychologist, or another qualified health professional.
We would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the unceded lands of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded. We acknowledge their rich history and honour the ongoing connection to land, waters, culture and community.
Welcome to This Might Help, a podcast bridging the gap between evidence-based psychology research and your everyday life.
Hello, we're your hosts. I'm Dr. Lauren Rossetti.
And I'm Dr. Kira Hart. We're two Australian psychologists.
And today we are talking all about gratitude. We are talking about what gratitude is, what gratitude practices actually really work based on the research as well. And before we get stuck into all things gratitude, as usual, Kira, can you tell me all about your well-being win and wobble for the week?
Sure. So my well-being win actually includes you.
Wow. I love it.
A bit of a spoiler alert, but we are recording 2 episodes today. We recorded our last week's episode.
Yes.
And then we went for a lovely little walk, which was my wellbeing win of the week. We got outside, got into nature, went down to Yochi, had some delicious frozen yogurt. And that was my wellbeing win of the week, having that little brain break and some nice exercise with a friend. And then my wellbeing wobble of the week was maybe it's that time of the month for me. So I've been a bit hormonal and a bit more emotional than usual. So just like some emotional difficulties leading up to getting my period, and then just hormone fluctuations has been my wellbeing wobble of the week. What about you? What's your wellbeing win and wobble?
I am stealing a wellbeing win from you.
Okay.
I am stealing the wellbeing win of Sabrina Carpenter because I have been playing her songs on repeat just all of the time in the last week. As I'm getting ready, on my walk to work, just at all hours. Sabrina Carpenter in my ears, loving it.
What's your favourite Sabrina Carpenter song?
I don't think I can pick a favourite.
Yeah.
I do. I'm really enjoying Man Child at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's one. If the listeners, haven't been listening, I mean,
listen to Sabrina Carpenter.
How dare you start listening to Sabrina Carpenter?
Yeah.
So that's my wellbeing win.
Yeah.
We're now sharing. We're sharing.
Yes.
Sharing and caring.
Yes.
And
it's a good win.
It's so good. And my wellbeing wobble is being a little bit of a hater. So
please elaborate.
I best explain. I just feel that in the last week I've been a little bit negative. Maybe hate is a bit harsh of a word for it, but I've just been seeing things through a bit of a negative lens.
Yes.
Very relevant for today's topic.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, like this is good. But when some weeks just you're seeing things and it's hard to have a positive outlook. Yeah. That's been me the last week. So and not really towards others, but being like a bit of a self-hater. Kind of hang on myself a little bit.
Being self-critical.
Yes. Yeah.
I was about to ask, what have you hated on the most? But maybe I won't ask that.
Yeah,
maybe I will just skip over that question and get into today's episode.
We definitely don't need to unpack that. But today's episode is really going to be shifting my mind frame, and I think we're going to turn this wobble into a win.
Amazing.
So we're going to chat all about gratitude, what gratitude actually is, and really a focus on the research about the best ways to implement gratitude.
We also want to start today's episode by talking about why is gratitude worth talking about. It's a term that's thrown around so much on social media and everyday life, like be grateful, you have so much to be grateful for, blah, 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 blah. But what exactly is gratitude and why is it worth talking about? I think from a psychological perspective, it's a really helpful technique because it's not particularly taxing. Like it doesn't require individuals to do that much work, but there's so many mental health benefits that can come from being grateful.
Yeah.
So for a small effort, you can reap big mental health rewards. And today we'll be unpacking some of that research. But to begin, Lauren, can you please elaborate a little bit further about what is gratitude?
Yes. So our brains are often wired, as I have just explained by my own wellbeing wobble, that our brains are often wired to focus on the negatives.
Yes.
So gratitude really challenges this mind frame and helps us shift from focusing on the negatives to viewing the positives. And gratitude can be defined as this appreciation of what is valuable and meaningful to oneself.
Yeah.
And it's a general state of thankfulness and appreciation. So it's this feeling of thankfulness and appreciation that we can get for something that is valuable and meaningful to ourselves. So what we're grateful for will be different for everyone. There might be a lot of, commonalities between what people are grateful for, but it will be unique for each person. And gratitude helps us really notice those parts of our lives that we might otherwise take for granted.
Yes.
So
definitely.
if we think about things that really, even like at a basic level, if we pare everything back and think about those little things that really make our lives comfortable. So, clean water that we have when we turn on the tap, or a light that turns on when we flick the switch, and a roof over our head, protecting us from the weather, being warm and cozy, thinking about our little heater and our slippers and things, our cup of tea, all of these simple things that we don't often necessarily think about in the day-to-day moments, but they make our lives really comfortable.
Yes.
Those are those things that we can be grateful for as well.
Similarly, I think we can be grateful for the people in our lives who make everyday life so comfortable. For example, farmers who farm our food and the accessibility we have to go into Coles or Woolies or Aldi and buy food, and the postman who delivers our goods or delivers the mail, and the educators and the artists who teach us or who, create beautiful work for us to consume. There's so many wonderful people in the world that make every day so comfortable for us. And I think that's someone or they're people we can be grateful for.
Yeah. And even the people that add to our days. So family, friends, a colleague,
Yes.
Neighbors or people you walk past that you see in your daily life that you smile at, or all of these, all of these people that you might interact with each day as well. This is also spoken about in another great TED Ed video, and we spoke about the TED Ed videos in another episode. This is one on gratitude that we'll also link in the show notes. And this speaks to the relationship between gratitude and happiness. And so it speaks about how some people, and a lot of us really, have everything that we think that we would think people need to be happy. So they have everything kind of at their disposal, everything we've just spoken about in terms of like running water and shelter and food and all of these necessities. And we can have all of those things that we think we need to be happy, but still feel really miserable.
Yeah.
And this is because we might not feel satisfied, or there's that kind of ongoing feeling of wanting something else.
Yeah.
Whilst other people may experience really significant hardship and have very little in their
Yep.
lives, but feel a really great, immense sense of happiness because they are so grateful for what they do have. And so there's that element between gratefulness and happiness. And we can all kind of spontaneously experience gratefulness in our everyday lives. So like it occurs as just a spontaneous feeling. So someone might do something very kind and selfless for you. And from that act, you may experience the feeling of gratefulness that comes up. But the shift, or where we see those benefits, particularly on increasing happiness and more kind of in a long-term sense, they come from having a grateful mind frame or a shift of our mindset to be really focused on gratitude and being grateful. And that involves being grateful within each moment. And so within this video, they really speak about those elements of having no guarantee of the next moment in life. So we really don't have the guarantee that, you know, the next day will be there or the next moment will be there. And so this concept really speaks to how there are things to be grateful for within every moment. And for a lot of us that do have access to many things which make our lives really comfortable, it's a reflection on being grateful for those things and not taking them for granted. And that kind of conscious, consistent practice of being grateful for those is where we see a lot of those benefits for happiness and our mental health.
Exactly. Practicing gratitude and being grateful is associated with specific mental health benefits and well-being benefits, as well as changes in specific brain structures. So practicing gratitude can change our brains, which is really amazing. There's increased activity in specific brain regions, which is linked to learning, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Research also shows that practicing gratitude can lead to decreased symptoms of depression and anxiety and enhance long-term well-being, such as one study looked at greater life satisfaction, optimism, and resilience, and found that people who keep regular gratitude lists reported more positive feelings, as well as better coping strategies or better coping skills, and improvement in health. So the health benefits included better sleep quality and fewer health symptoms such as headaches, as well as, you know, better able to keep regular exercise routines versus those who weren't practicing gratitude daily.
Yep.
There's also a heap of research that shows that gratitude can have positive benefits on our social relationships and can strengthen social bonds, specifically expressing gratitude towards others. And I know we've spoken about this in previous episodes, but expressing, you know, your vulnerability and your appreciation for others can really strengthen social ties.
Yeah. And it creates a bit of that, I guess, back and forward, or that two-way relationship of a friendship, in that if you are showing your appreciation or gratitude for another friend, then they're feeling that kind of effort and acknowledgement of the friendship. And then they're probably also more likely to then show you that same gratitude in return. So deepening the friendship.
Yes.
It's well established that gratitude has many benefits for our mental health and well-being, like you've mentioned, and it also shifts that perspective we have on our lives to be more positive. But it's hard to know actually how to implement gratitude as a practice in our daily lives, especially when our brains are really wired to see those negatives like we spoke about.
Yeah.
You know, guilty of this too. And so we might find it hard to really actively and consistently focus on what we're grateful for. I think this is especially the case when we're constantly consuming messages that tell us that we don't have enough or we aren't enough. So if we think even just about what we consume within social media, there is a lot of marketed things that are kind of thrown at us all day, every day, of things we need to want. So like, you need all of these other things to be happy, or there's that upward comparison we have where we might compare ourselves to someone in a position that we view as like more desirable than our position. And then there's that comparison of I want what they have, or they have all these things and I need them to be happy. And when we're consuming all of these messages, that makes it even harder to be reflecting on or be grateful kind of naturally. And I think that's where these evidence-based practices are really important, that we implement them regularly in our lives to kind of bring us back to what we're grateful for, and remembering all of the things that we may take for granted that we should be consistently acknowledging that we are grateful for.
Yes.
One of those practices, which is an evidence-backed way of implementing gratitude in your daily life, is through gratitude journaling. And this is really the practice of detailing or writing down the things that we're grateful for. And that might be something we do, regularly throughout the week. This is where you're physically writing out or you're noting down. It could be, in a physical journal. It could be on your phone. It could be in a voice memo. But it's where we're noting what we're grateful for. And that's giving us a tangible reminder of these things that happen during our day or during our week that we are grateful for, and it's shifting that mind to the positives that have occurred. And this could be something that's really written freely, like you're just kind of writing to what you're grateful for, or it can be something that follows a more structured prompt.
And a structured way to do this is something called the 3 good things exercise. There's lots of research done by Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the pioneer of positive psychology research. And this looks at shifting our attention away from negative experiences towards the positive things that happen during the day. Mm-hmm. This can look like each evening sitting down and writing 3 dot points on things that went well that day. So identifying 3 events that was positive during the day. So for example, it might be, today the weather was really lovely. I got yochi with my friend and yochi is delicious, and I had a beautiful cup of tea. So just identifying 3 things that you're grateful for. It can also be helpful to elaborate and expand on those 3 things by identifying what exactly happened, how that made you feel, and what caused those good things to happen. So recognizing your own role in facilitating those positive experiences.
Yeah. So you walked down to Yochi and you got, what did you get on your
got a butterscotch Yochi with Papa Pistachio and some Biscoff.
Spread. Perfect. And how did that make you feel, Kira?
It made me feel so joyous.
Yeah.
And
it was delicious.
Yes.
And I think you caused this good thing to happen by asking me to also start this podcast with you. And so here we are, walking down to have yochi, and aren't we so grateful?
Yes. So recognizing and taking time to acknowledge those positive, fun, joyous things that happen throughout your day can help you shift your focus into the positive things, as our brains are often hardwired to focus on the negatives.
Yeah.
Also, it can help by writing down what went well. It can help reinforce and help you remember those positive memories, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, I love the act of physically writing things down. And I think that, like you said, it kind of solidifies it, right? It's like there on the page. It's, I don't know. It does something for my brain where I'm like, yes, that's happened. And it feels very, the practice feels very therapeutic to me. It won't for everyone, but the physically writing it down that's a winner for me. Maybe it's my love of stationery too that comes out there. There is also gratitude letters, and this is a kind of different approach to this gratitude practice, and a really quite lovely one as well. This is where we are writing letters of gratitude to someone that we are grateful for. And so this could be a particular person for something in particular, or just you're grateful in general for the person being in your life. But you can write a letter to that person, and it might be, you know, about what they specifically did that you're grateful for, how it's affected your life, why it mattered to you, you know, detailing this gratefulness for this person. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the letter needs to be delivered to the person. So these letters are not always written with the intention of passing it on to the person, but it's really about the practice of writing that letter, and whether that's, you know, handwritten or it's a voice memo or it's in your notes on your phone. It doesn't matter. It's about kind of documenting those thoughts of gratefulness for someone else. And, you know, you can give them the letter, or it can just be something that you keep personally. But that's kind of quite oriented at being grateful for someone else rather than kind of specific things that are happening to you within the day. So that's another framework to use.
Another technique or framework is mindful gratitude. And there's many different ways to practice mindful gratitude. One that is commonly used is a guided meditation. So someone kind of like listening to an audio or listening to
a meditation,
a
guided
track.
meditation track,
that focuses on gratitude.
Yeah.
So this isn't something that's self-generated, but rather having another person prompt you or walk you through a guided meditation on gratitude. And another way is appreciating what our body does for us. So focusing on your own body and recognizing the strengths in your body and the things that your body enables you to do.
Yeah.
So for example, you might think, my body's enabling me to breathe, my body's enabling my body to move around.
And it's even like, you know, your brain to think and
Yes.
do all of these things. Like even us now, we could say like our brains and our bodies enable us to talk and have this conversation. And, you know, it's being grateful that our bodies enable us to do those things and participate in those activities. And you can do that just by kind of thinking and reflecting on that. It also might be something that comes up in those guided meditations about gratitude, or something you can anchor to an activity you do that reminds you to be grateful. So it might be when we're exercising that, you know, that's something that's quite tricky. And sometimes in the moment, I mean, sometimes when I'm in the hot Pilates room and it's 35 degrees and they're making me do burpees, I'm feeling conflicted about the difficulty of that. But I like those moments can also be reminders of, wow, isn't it amazing that my body can do this? And that I have a body that is capable of doing burpees in a 35-degree hot Pilates room.
Exactly.
And I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to do that. It's very difficult. And I really hate it when the instructor put those in the lineup for the class. But we can reframe.
Yes.
There's also gratitude walks, and these I think I've kind of spoken or touched on before, but gratitude walks are where we're kind of out about in nature or noticing our surroundings and environment, and we're being grateful for what's around us. So I really like to kind of, you know, even just notice the trees or the golden retriever that like runs through the park, and I'm like, oh, they're so cute. Or, you know, just being conscious of like the beauty around us in our daily lives. Even seeing things like, you know, an older couple holding hands walking down the street, and it's so precious. And it's those moments being like being actively aware or noticing them as positive things that we see and experience.
Exactly. So going for a walk and taking in what you're observing. So listening to the birds and being grateful for what you can hear and see, and smelling the flowers, and, you know, walking past people and smiling, and taking in kind of what you're seeing and observing on that walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about all of these different practices, so there's lots of things there. We've talked about, you know, gratitude journaling, the 3 things that you can be grateful for in the day, gratitude letters, and then these types of mindfulness practices. it's really about the personal choice of what will work for you that is most important, rather than one specific technique necessarily being like better than another.
Yes.
It's not really, and a lot of things we talk about are not from that frame. It's really about what works best for you and thinking about what you're able to kind of commit to and add as a regular practice in your life.
Yes.
So I really find a lot of benefit from the physical journaling of things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And I do notice a difference, I think, when I haven't done that in a while. So this episode is coming at a good time where it will remotivate me. But I find like physically writing those things down in a journal each night, I can see the positive effects in my daily life. And it reminds me of kind of how when we practice these gratitude acts or we incorporate it regularly in our lives, our brains are more primed to see the positives each day. So I'm sure you've probably experienced the same, Kira, but when you are, even just me knowing, okay, like tonight I'm coming home and then I write, like that's a part of my routine. I write down what I'm grateful for each day. It primes your brain when you're in your daily life to think about the things you're grateful for that you might otherwise not notice. So it might be that, even if I'm having a really tricky day, like it's a very stressful day, if I know, okay, like it's part of my general routine that I acknowledge what I'm grateful for, I might notice in that otherwise very challenging day that, that person smiled at me when I got out of the elevator, or this friend sent me a message and I had a, coffee that was really delicious.
Yeah.
And it makes you be more aware and primed to notice things that are really positive and that you can be grateful for. And you see that gradual shift.
Yes. You're looking out for the positives around you.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas otherwise those things might have slipped by as like a regular daily occurrence that we take for granted. But when we're shifting to incorporate a regular gratitude practice into our days, we will start to see those things. And I think that's where the big shift happens, which is why these evidence-based practices are so helpful. Like it's why we see in the research that they have such benefits on our mental health and our well-being.
Yes. I know, like realistically, I'm not going to sit down and dot point 3 things that I'm grateful for each day. But to me, practicing gratitude looks like coming home and telling my housemates, like, what was the highlight of my day? Like, what's something I appreciated that day?
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose, a less tangible way of practicing gratitude, but again, is sparking that thought process of what were the positives, like what was I grateful for that day?
Yeah.
And helps me recognize that.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of where it's not the same for all of us.
No.
Right?
Yes.
And for you, having that reminder, like that day might look very similar, and as in you come home and you will have that conversation with your housemates. And so that's a regular thing where you can implement that practice.
Yeah.
And that's where you can see the change or the positive effect. And it will be so different for every person, which is why it's just about having a go and finding what works. If you're already practicing, say, a regular mindful meditation practice, maybe it's swapping in a gratitude focused one every week. Or, if it's that you exercise regularly, maybe it's just that reminder of I'm appreciating my body in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's so personal.
Exercise is such a good one, I think, because often when you are exercising, you're like, this is so hard, but this is also so amazing that my body can do this.
Yeah.
We also wanted to acknowledge that gratitude isn't always appropriate. Everyday people experience horrific, awful, devastating or challenging experiences that they do not need to be grateful for, or no one needs to be grateful for those horrible experiences.
Yeah. And there also might be cultural or personal barriers as well to gratitude. So some people might experience guilt or sadness rather than the positive benefits when practicing gratitude. And it's not necessarily a one size fits all practice. So those things might come up for people when they are attempting to practice gratitude. And it's important to be mindful that that can come up and really be practicing gratitude if it does bring those positive benefits and not necessarily pushing it if it's bringing up those negative feelings.
Exactly. We all have different life experiences, and for some people gratitude might come more easily or might feel more natural than other people. It may not be, you know, a possibility for them. They might be in a really difficult circumstance where being grateful is inappropriate because they're facing hardship.
For some people who maybe are in situations where they do have the capacity to practice gratitude or be kind of moving into this mind frame, but it might not come naturally, or it might not be something that they've tried so much before, it can feel unnatural or forced at first.
Yes.
And this is where it really kind of comes to it being a muscle that needs training.
Yeah.
And we can see that, it needs practice or repetition. It might be that, you know, the first time we try and write down 3 things that we're grateful for, they're not coming to us very easily. And kind of thinking and identifying those things might take time and effort. With practice and with this repetition, with kind of, you know, training that muscle, that can become more automatic and natural in our daily lives. And I think, like you've spoken about, with the fact that it's more of a thing that exists within your daily routine rather than it being a practice that you write down. So, you know, it's a conversation you're having with your housemates. I think that speaks to where gratitude kind of becomes a more natural part of a daily routine over time through practicing gratitude. Whereas when it's more tricky, and I think when I started the practice of it at first, physically writing down those 3 things and making my mind be more conscious, that was something I needed to do at the end of each day to build that muscle and for it to become more automatic.
Yeah, exactly. So practicing gratitude is something that for some people needs repetition and needs training, but over time might become easier.
And starting small with something that is realistic and is something that we can actively implement is important. As we always say, it's like really starting small and seeing how your body and mind responds, thinking about something that you can realistically implement in your daily life, and that will look different for everyone. Trial some of the things that we've said today and see how it goes. We've really talked about how gratitude is a really low cost, low effort practice with these really phenomenal mental health and wellbeing gains. So we can see through the research how these small practices or acknowledgement of gratitude can have like tremendous changes to our mental health and well-being, which is amazing, and have had a chat about the ways that we can implement that gratitude practice based on the evidence, with the mindset that it isn't for everyone and it's not always appropriate.
Yeah. I'm taking away from this conversation that in addition to just chatting with my housemates about kind of like the highlights of our day and what we're grateful for, actually like writing down or journaling what we're grateful for can be really helpful. And, you know, every now and then writing a letter to someone who I'm really appreciative for is such like a beautiful practice to help, you know, further the gratitude that I'm feeling towards them.
And I am grateful, Kira, for you and and for our podcast as well. And I just want to say, this is our 10th episode.
Yay!
I can't believe it. And I'm very grateful for also our wonderful editor who puts the audio and the video and all of the things together and sits through the many, many hours of recording. I'm very grateful for you.
I'm very grateful and grateful for our listeners. Thank you for having us eyes in your ears and listening along to our explanation of the research.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
And really coming up, sorry, I cut you off, but really, I'm sure you're not grateful for that. But really coming along for the ride as we get like better on average over time. You know, it's like it might be like a windy road, but I'm so grateful that people are listening, even if it fluctuates, you know.
Exactly. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Message us and tell us what you're grateful for. We want to hear at This Might Help podcast on social media.
Yes.
And the video version, you can also watch and comment and reach out to us on YouTube as well.
As always, if you're feeling like you need further support, please get in touch with a healthcare professional. Helplines are provided, as always, in the show notes, as is the research from today's episode. Thank you again for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Yeah, episode 11. Bye.